So I'm just going to focus, I think, on three areas. There's obviously a lot more that I'm sure we'll cover and discuss. In the area of the recovery, as you say, this is actually one of the probably in many ways for economists, the G20 is very well positioned to do this because you have the major economies together. Now, there's a number of issues that they're going to have to contend with: supply chain disruptions, inflationary pressures, and I think just more broadly, the very uneven vaccination rates in the world means that there's a very uneven global recovery. And there's a lot of, and I'm sure Emma will go into this in much greater detail, but I think that, so I'll leave that one. But I think in terms of the supply chain and then the inflation and what is it that we want global leaders to commit to, I think it's one of the key things to watch out for. So this is going to be a theme in some of what I discuss, which is the G7 that the UK is president of put out a number of recommendations. It was a very, in many ways, strategic G7 in terms of the communique that they issued in areas that they hope that the world would sign up to.
So, of course, it's well known now that the longer this pandemic drags on, the greater the cost, the bigger the risk. And that's the cost in lives, economic and social fallout, will escalate further. And unless the world pulls together, the divide between those who are protected and those who are left to the mercy of the virus will widen even more, with a significant impact on the socioeconomic recovery of those who are left behind. And I think it's also well recognized that global solidarity in facing this pandemic has been pretty wanting. The G7 didn't rise to the occasion, so everyone's looking to the G20 now to see if this wider representation of global leaders can step up. Some of the countries that have been most vocal about the failings will be around this table, so they are in a position to sort this out. And I think this is going to be a particularly important gathering, one of a few in the next few months for global health going forwards. A few issues to look at here, of course, how the global vaccine equity issue will be handled. The outcome of any discussion of this will be a big test of global cooperation to end the pandemic, given the disappointment in the G7 and in individual richer countries that have got plenty of vaccine supplies.
Yeah, obviously this is an important G20 for a number of reasons. I guess firstly, in terms of the urgency of climate change, what we have seen over the last year increasingly is that the impacts of climate change happening here and now. So it isn't just a future issue, and recognition of its importance. Code red for the environment coming from United Nations and IPCC, etc. So from an environmental perspective, clearly we need a rapid response. But also in some ways, we should have the politics aligned, because we have the G7 chaired by the UK, we have the G20 chaired by Italy, both hosting COP26, which is starting straight after the G20 summit. So they should be working in parallel and enabling us to make significant progress. The things to look out for, I would say, are, firstly, the Paris Agreement is set temperature targets, ambitions, saying that global temperatures should not rise more than 2 degrees above pre-industrial temperatures, and ideally not more than 1.5 degrees. So are we going to see the G20 adopting that 1.5 degree target and saying, yes, we're, as a group and as a powerful group, I mean, it's 80% of global emissions on an annual basis come out from the G20 countries. So unless we see them move in this direction, then we don't have any hope of meeting it. So I think on the high level, we need that political intention of adopting the 1.5 degree target, and linked to that is a net zero target by mid-centuries, by 2050. So that language needs to be in there on both of those points.